You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Haristodoulou.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Greeks Gridiron. I am Ethan Haristodoulou, and today we are talking the top 5 defenses in the NFC. This is a pre-recorded video as I'm away, so I'm not necessarily sure when this is going to go up. Signings may happen by the time you guys get this, but it is what it is, so just be aware. If you're seeing this on Friday, I recorded this on Sunday, so it's been a handful of days since this was done. We're going from 5 all the way up to number 1, talking all 5 of my best defenses in the NFC. Give a little bit of detail and insight as to why. Let me know in the comment section down below if you disagree. Would love to hear your reasonings why. If your team made it to the top 5, hit that like button, and let's get into it. The Packers, sitting at number 5. This was one that I kind of rolled around in my head, because there's argument that maybe they could be number 6, maybe they could be number 7, and you could swap up a couple of teams. I think that the NFC defenses are, there's a few things that are up in the air about them right now, just because of a handful of free agents sitting out, at least at the time of me recording this, and the free agents that will get signed in like the next few days, I think might shake this up a little bit, but I'm going off what I have now. I like what the Packers did. Their 2 biggest losses right now are currently Zadarius Smith and Chandon Sullivan, who they currently have the opportunity to potentially re-sign now that Devontae Adams is gone. They still have about $19 million in cap money to play with. That's either bringing back one of those 2 guys. Chandon Sullivan, pretty solid corner for them. He had 3 picks last year. Zadarius Smith did not play last year, obviously due to injury. The defense was still really good without Zadarius Smith, so maybe they get Smith on a cheaper deal, potentially. We'll have to see. But I would love to see Zadarius Smith go back to Green Bay. It would only bolster up the defense there. But, I mean, definitely one of the better Ds altogether. One of the best in the NFC in turnover margin, sitting at 1.53, only allowing about 5.4 yards per play and about 22 points a game just underneath that. Impressive stuff by the team, and also one of the most disciplined teams in the NFC when it comes to defense. They were tied for 3rd at only about 5.1 penalties per game. Not bad. Not bad at all. Best way to win games is to not shoot yourself in the foot and give up offenses free yards. And the Packers definitely have that thing figured out. But like I said, they got $19 million to play with. I expect them to bring back potentially either Chandon Sullivan or Zadarius Smith, because you want continuity there. I don't see why they don't bring back at least one of those 2 guys. Coming in at number 4, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This one is more so me assuming that they're probably going to bring back a guy or 2 that they have as free agents, because they do have a decent amount of money to play with still right now. They're sitting at about $14.5 million at the time of recording here. But I mean, this was the 2nd best defense in points per game last year, 2nd best in turnovers at 1.7 on the margin. Best when it came to penalties, the most disciplined defense in the NFC, allowing only 4.6 penalties a game. So they very rarely ever gave up yards. The only way you were beating the Buccaneers was by beating them with your offense. Very rarely were they giving you anything. Now, they did lose Jordan Whitehead. Ndamukong Suh's still sitting in free agency. Jason Pierre-Paul's still sitting there. William Golston is still sitting there. We'll have to see what they end up doing. They did sign Logan Ryan. I don't know if he's still able to play corner at the level that he did when he was like in New England. And, he was not quite the same when he went to Tennessee. Or I think he was just in New York as well. I don't remember exactly where he's been the last few years, but I remember him when he was in New England. Now, if he makes the switch to safety, that might be an interesting play, because again, they lost Jordan Whitehead. Maybe Logan Ryan fills in as a safety potentially if he's willing to make that switch. I don't know necessarily what their plan's going to be. I am not within the coaching staff of the Buccaneers, but that would definitely be an interesting way to utilize him in a way that would definitely make sense considering his age. And I don't think he's ever really been the fastest corner, so I can't imagine he's gotten any faster as he's gotten older. So we'll have to see what he does there, but I'm very interested in that. But I do like the Buccaneers at number 4. I assume they're going to bring back one of those 3, at least one of those 3 free agents that I just mentioned there, maybe even 2. And I would assume, because Pierre-Paul dealt with some injuries last year, I mean, Ndamukong Suh has been effective, and I still think could bring something to this defense. And honestly, Jason Pierre-Paul as well. I feel like William Golston might be the odd man out there, but I could be wrong. Buccaneers fans, you guys would know better than I do. But I could definitely see them bringing back at least two or even all three if they're really going to play around with the cap money here and do some wizardry there if their accountant can figure all that stuff out. But I expect them to bring some people back. They still have money to play with, and I know Tom Brady is recruiting everyone to come back to run it back with the boys one more time. Coming in at number 3, we got the LA Rams. Now, I was considering putting them higher, but they have a handful of losses that lead me to believe they're probably going to take a step back. They still have $16 million to play with in cap space at the time of me recording this, so maybe they bring back, I don't know if they're able to, or not bring back, but bring in somebody to help negate their losses, but I mean, you can't really replace Von Miller and what he did for this defense last year. Darius Williams, it depended on the week, but there were some games where I felt like he played really well, and there were some games where I felt like he was mismatched. Sebastian Joseph Day, if you're a Rams fan, you probably know who he is. If you're not a Rams fan, you may or may not know who he is. Definitely an underrated run defender, so that's definitely going to hurt the run D because the run defense definitely took a step back this past season, and I think might continue to do so as well, especially now that Von Miller's gone. Von Miller's an excellent guy on the edge there, so that's definitely going to hurt them. But there's still a lot to like about this defense. You obviously have Jalen Ramsey still. They're going to have their their safeties healthy again. That was probably one of the biggest issues they had going into the offseason, and thank goodness for Eric Weddle being able to still play at his advanced, whatever he is, like 38 years old or whatever. Obviously, though, again, Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, you still have a lot of talent on that defense, some great leaders as well. The linebacking corps is going to need some work. We'll have to see what they do there, but I still like them at number 3. Again, they have money to play with. Things, depending on what happens this week, maybe they find a value guy somewhere. I know like Rashaan Evans is still sitting out there somewhere. Maybe they go after someone like him to help upgrade the linebacking core. Who knows? But I like him at number 3. Coming in at number 2, I got the San Francisco 49ers. Really good defense last year, allowing only 310 yards a game, second best in the NFC, allowing only 5.1 yards per play, tied for first in the NFC. Couple that with a 34.4% scoring percentage on their defensive drives. Excellent numbers there as well. And a fairly disciplined defense. Fairly disciplined, I would say. 5.5 penalties a game. So not bad. Not great. Not bad. Somewhere in the middle. Decent. They have a handful of losses that I don't know if they're going to be able to really recoup on, but they have so much talent on the defense that I definitely think they're going to be able to be okay. I assume they're going to look for some talent in the draft to kind of recoup guys like Arden, or to like make up for guys like Arden Key and DJ Jones. And even though Josh Norman's older, fairly effective guy over there in the defensive scheme that they run over in San Francisco. They did sign Charvarius Ward, which is a massive signing. He's probably the best corner in Kansas City. So excellent work by San Francisco to bring a guy like him in. That would probably negate out the Josh Norman thing. We'll have to see what they do on the D-line, though. Obviously, you still have Nick Bosa there. And Eric Armstead, I think, is still, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. I'm not going to lie. I did not double-check that, so that's on me there. But there's so much talent and what they do in defense, and I feel like the next man up mentality is something that they embrace over in San Francisco. I definitely expect this defense to continue on being as good as it has been because there's just been a litany of talent on the D-line there. Linebacking corps is obviously excellent as well. I like them at 2. Then coming in at number 1, and they still have $26 million to play with, so we'll have to see if they do anything to add into their defense, which honestly has not really lost a ton because a couple of their guys are still free agents, and I expect them to re-sign them. The Saints, man. Dennis Allen's their head coach now. No reason to believe their defense is going to get altered much, considering how successful he has made that defense over there in New Orleans. They did lose Marcus Williams, and I'm not saying Marcus May is on the level of Marcus Williams, but Marcus May, still a pretty impressive safety. So you basically, I guess, like zero out the loss. We'll see how well Marcus May does in their system. PJ Williams is probably the next biggest missing piece from their defense. He's still a free agent. They definitely have the money to bring him back. He's been a pretty good cornerback for them. Quan Alexander, more of a depth guy, but still somebody worth his stuff in that defense. Probably someone they could bring back as well in a fairly decent deal. He knows the system. You might as well. Again, continuity is important, especially on defense. You want guys that know the system and know how to play there. But I mean, this was the number one defense in a handful of categories, in yards per play, in points per game allowed, in scoring percentage. I mean, and on top of that, disciplined. About just over 5.25 penalties a game, or just under 5.25 penalties a game. 5th best in the NFC. I mean, they turn the ball over, that they're aggressive. What is not to like about the Saints defense? I don't really know. Effective at pass rush, great at stopping the run. They had one of the best run defenses last season. They didn't lose a lot, and they could potentially bring it all back. And again, you somewhat negate the loss of Marcus Williams. While he has been an excellent safety over there in New Orleans, Marcus May, I think, has potential to fit in and do really well over there in New Orleans as well. I don't think they're going to miss Marcus Williams as much now that May is going to be there. And I expect with the money that they have, they're going to be able to do something. They should be able to bring in somebody to improve the defense and make it even better than it was last year. I mean, you got $26 million to play with. I know they were trying to make cap space and whatnot to bring in Deshaun Watson. Well, run it back with Jameis Winston. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt. They were 5-2 before he went down, and invest in that defense. That's already, I would say, the number one defense in the NFC. But that is my top 5 defenses for the NFC. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Appreciate you guys for watching. I'll see you all next time.